On the night of August 24, 410 CE, a gate on the northern edge of Rome swung open from the inside. There were no battering rams and no siege engines. Someone already inside the walls simply turned a key. An army of Visigothic warriors poured into a city that had not fallen to a foreign enemy in 800 years. That is a span of time longer than the entire history of the United States. From Bethlehem, St. Jerome described himself as literally unable to speak from shock, saying the whole world had perished in one city. Across the Mediterranean, writers treated the event as evidence that the very structure of reality was unraveling. Yet the man leading this army had spent his adult life not trying to destroy the empire, but trying to be allowed inside it. Alaric began his career as a Roman commander, seeking a dignified place for his people within the empire he ultimately burned. Alaric was born around 370 CE, along the lower Danube frontier. This was a fluid borderland where Roman and Gothic culture, trade, and religion had been mixing for generations. When Alaric was a child, thousands of Goths fled the Huns and requested asylum inside the empire. Emperor Valens granted it, but Roman officials treated the refugees with such corruption that families were forced to trade their own children into slavery just for dog meat. The Goths rose in rebellion. In 378, at the Battle of Adrianople, a Gothic army annihilated a Roman field army and killed the emperor himself. It was a disaster on a scale Rome had not recorded in 6 centuries. Alaric grew up in the direct aftermath of that defeat. He lived in a community that knew it could defeat Rome in open battle, and knew that Roman promises of protection could not be trusted. By his 20s, Alaric was a commander of Gothic troops fighting for the Roman Emperor Theodosius I. In the civil wars of the 390s, Alaric's forces took catastrophic casualties, used as expendable frontline shock troops, while Roman units were held in reserve. These losses planted a grievance that would define his career. Gothic soldiers were expected to die for Rome, but they were never treated as equal partners within it. When Emperor Theodosius died, the empire split into separate eastern and western halves. Alaric, feeling his people's sacrifices had gone unrewarded, was elected king by his own warriors. Alaric's demands were consistent: a legally recognized homeland, regular supplies for his people, and an official position for himself within the Roman military command. To get what he wanted, Alaric marched his army into Roman territory. This was a move to force Roman authorities to the negotiating table. The court would respond with a temporary settlement of land and gold, but once the military pressure eased, the Romans would renege, treating the agreement as a stalling tactic. Alaric spent 15 years in this cycle. He would wait for imperial promises to evaporate, then mobilize his army again to extract a new round of concessions. For years, Alaric's primary counterpart was Flavius Stilicho, a general of Vandal ancestry who effectively ruled the Western Empire. Stilicho understood that a formal alliance with Alaric's Gothic forces could be a strategic asset to Rome. In 408, Stilicho was arrested and executed on the orders of Emperor Honorius. His death removed the one senior official who had consistently worked toward a settlement. Following the execution, Roman troops massacred the families of Gothic soldiers serving in the Roman military across Italy. 20,000 people were killed, driving the survivors to defect to Alaric in grief. Alaric besieged Rome and cut off its food supply. The starving city was forced to pay an enormous ransom just to survive. Alaric installed a Roman senator, Priscus Attalus, as a rival puppet emperor, hoping a figurehead would deliver the homeland the emperor refused. When Attalus proved powerless, Alaric personally deposed him. By slaughtering Gothic civilians and breaking every promise, the Roman state had burned every path to peace. Violence was the only tool Alaric had left to make the empire listen. In August 410, facing a starving army and 2 years of failed negotiations, Alaric marched on Rome for the final time. As an Arian Christian, Alaric ordered his troops to respect the major churches of Rome as protected sanctuaries. Accounts from the time describe Romans successfully sheltering inside St. Peter's Basilica, while the city around them burned. The sack was not a war of extermination. It was a final, furious attempt at leverage by a leader who had spent 15 years asking for things he was now taking by force. Within days, Alaric moved his army south, hoping to cross into the grain-producing provinces of North Africa to finally establish a self-sufficient homeland. but a storm destroyed his fleet before they could leave Italy. Alaric had sacked the most famous city in the world, yet he was now trapped in southern Italy, still without the one thing he had spent his career trying to obtain: a secure place for his people. Within months of the sack, Alaric fell ill and died. His followers reportedly diverted the Busento River, buried their king in the riverbed, and then released the water to hide the tomb forever. The river obscured the location of his body, and history eventually did the same for his story. A few years later, Alaric's successor secured a recognized Visigothic kingdom in Gaul, the very settlement Alaric had died seeking. His successor concluded that Gothic strength combined with Roman law was more durable than destruction. Today, Alaric is remembered only as a barbarian who destroyed Rome. The river hid the king, and time has hidden the man who spent his life trying to build something inside the empire he is now remembered for ending.